Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to Islamic Preacher and Apologist. To people all across the globe, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. If you came to my channel through social media, please click on the comments section to watch the complete video. And now let's begin.
Bigo!
Today I'm going to be talking about the age of Aisha, the things that people are saying to justify her marriage or to justify that she was married at 6 or 9. For those of you who haven't figured this one out, this is actually a part 1. The part 1 is actually debunking the claims people have been making to justify Aisha being 6 or 9. Part 2 is actually informative, and it would give you information as to why Aisha was not 6 or 9. So let's begin, and let's see what people have to say.
It's extremely unfair for one to judge Rasulullah Muhammad bin Abdullah according to 21st century morals and standards. Rasulullah was not the only person to marry someone that young, and this was a cultural norm.
I'd like to clarify what was the cultural norm and what wasn't. It was cultural norm to get your daughters wedded off as soon as they found a suitable match after reaching puberty. I have people in my comment section that say, oh, was paedophilia cultural norm? We Muslims have been using the term cultural norm on very unfair grounds, when the reality is that women 1,500 years ago, Muslim women, used to get married on very compromising circumstances. The major issue was the world population, particularly the Muslim population. These images of the Kaaba represent Saudi Arabia some 142 years back. Saudi Arabia, some 1,500 years ago, was not a Muslim majority country. The other population, such as the population of pagans, idolaters, such as Hindus, Jews and Christians, was greater than the population of Muslims. Already the population was scarce, and Muslims suffered greatly in terms of finding a righteous partner, or even just a Muslim. But the gender that suffered greatly were actually women. Surah Baqarah verse 221 says the following, "And do not marry al-mushrikat, idolatrous, till they believe, worship Allah alone. And indeed, a slave woman who believes is better than a free mushrikah, idolatress, etc., even though she pleases you. And give not your daughters in marriage to the mushrikun, till they believe in Allah alone. And verily, a believing slave is better than a free mushrikat, idolater, etc., even though he pleases you. Those al-mushrikun invite you to the fire, but Allah invites you to paradise and forgiveness by His leave, and makes His ayat, proof, evidences, verses, lessons, signs, revelations, etc., clear to mankind that they may remember." This particular verse in the Holy Quran binded Muslims with other Muslims, irrespective of their differences. And their differences could be anything: their race, their background, their ethnic origin, or even their age, or even being previously married to someone else. If we do further research on the wives of our beloved Prophet, you would find that Aisha was
not only the youngest, or the most spirited, or the only virgin among those late life wives, since all the others were either widowed or divorced.
The morals and standards of those people that lived in the 6th and 7th century were greater, much greater than those people that live in the 21st century. And let me explain to you in which way. Muslim men and women living in the 6th or 7th century were capable of prioritizing their religion above other things that probably didn't matter, such as the age difference or race difference. A religious leader was capable of marrying a divorced woman, and likewise, a single unmarried woman would outnumber those other factors, such as age difference, race difference, status difference, for a righteous man. 21st century moral standards are trashy compared to those people of yesterday.
This new generation of modern day women are psychopathic, they're masculine, they're narcissistic, they're entitled, and essentially, they're spoiled little brats.
I'd like to ask viewers a question. Would you prefer rotten piece of meat entirely to yourself, or a good quality meal shared amongst family members? Something better quality but shared. The concept of being a Muslim is to share goodness even if it's less in quantity, and not compromise quality for the sake of quantity. Young, rich, handsome, beautiful, never married before are positive qualities, but they should not be compromised for those things which really do matter. And these things were much better understood by those people of yesterday. I would like you to kindly also watch this video, Polygamy in Islam, Apostate Prophet Responded. A 21st century modern day woman could not even imagine sharing her husband with another lady. In this particular video, you would understand the intensity of a woman's need. Like I earlier discussed, that the Muslims were a minority compared to the other groups that existed before, there was in fact another issue, and that was that not every man was capable of affording another wife in his house. So basically, getting married for a woman, even in a sharing situation, even in an age gap situation, was a privilege. I'd like to advise you to view this video. It's called The Hungry Prophet.
The Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr and Umar were hungry. And they were coming out of their home at an odd time of the night because they were hungry.
Food shortage, being hungry, and struggling to survive. And survive with one righteous being was on the top priority list. Although I do not agree that Aisha was 6 or 9 when she consummated marriage with the beloved Prophet, I also do not deny that there was a huge age gap. So the next question is, how great was that time gap between our Prophet and Aisha?
She says in the narration, I was playing with dolls, I was playing on the swings, etc., etc.
First of all, there is no such thing as playing on a swing. It's actually swinging on a swing. And there is no one particular age group for that. And let me show you the history. If we look into the history of swings, then you would realize that swings were not necessarily designed for children. If we look into China, for example, after the Han Dynasty, 2006 to 220 BC, the swing gradually became folk sports activity in the Qingming festival.
Who asked Fragonard to paint his lover on a swing, being pushed by a bishop, while he hid and looked up his mistress's dress.
One painter even painted his lover on a swing. Now, since Aisha was a Muslim, she would most probably be using an indoor swing. I'm going to be showing you a video. Please look behind those 3 dancers. If you see behind these 3 dancers, there is a swing. Aisha's swing would have been more like that. And if you take a closer view, something like this, or like this, and even like the one in this image over here. But those Westerners, people that are living in the UK, Europe, USA, are visualizing something like this, like the images which I've just shown you right now at this point. Why? Because in the Western world, swings like these are designed or structured for 6 or 7-year-olds. But if you go into history in various different parts of the world, you would come to learn that swings were not originally designed for 6 or 7-year-olds. It didn't really have an age limit. Their next argument is that she played with dolls. The thing is that at around 6 or 7 years of age, girls usually start playing with dolls. In many cases, this process is continued until girls and boys are 15, 16 years of age. So basically, Islamic critics and those that agree with them actually talk about the commencement stage, not the entire duration. For many years, this has been true, that maturity did not come until girls did not get married. And immaturity did not completely vanish immediately after getting married. It did take time. Now, going into the slight history of dolls, how they were played with and how they were made. This one over here, by the way, is actually an Egyptian pharaoh doll. My grandmother told me when I was a teenager that she also played with fabric dolls, and that her parents used to encourage her to make accessories just so that, and clothes and etc., just so that she knows how to make clothes, because parents didn't wed off their daughters without them knowing how to cook, clean, make clothes, etc. Training usually started around the age of 7 or 8. This would happen with the help of a parent or guardian. I then told her that when I was around 7 or 8 years of age, at school they would give me this needle square and teach me how to needle straight. Needle square training is something which my grandma never got. She just had to practice how to needle straight first. What has this got to do with Aisha? I'll explain, but let's read this piece of reference first. Sunan Abi Dawood 4932. Narrated Aisha Mu'min. When the Messenger of Allah SWT arrived after the expedition to Tabuk or Khaybar, the narrator is doubtful. The draught raised an end of a curtain which was hung in front of her storeroom, revealing some dolls which belonged to her. He asked, "What is this?" She replied, "My dolls." Among them he saw a horse with wings made of rags, and asked, "What is this I see among them?" She replied, "A horse." He asked, "What is this that it has on it?" She replied, "2 wings." He asked, "A horse with 2 wings?" She replied, "Have you not heard that Solomon had horses with wings?" She said, thereupon, the Messenger of Allah SWT laughed so heartily that I could see his molar teeth. If our beloved Prophet purchased that doll for her, he would have known about it. The fact that he was surprised and asking questions, it appears to me that Aisha would have made this doll herself. If we look into the art of making clothes, it's by itself, it's something that not everybody could do. It requires some level of skill, some level of artwork. At the age of 7 or 8, you're expected to do this with assistance, not on your own. Not only did Aisha know how to make clothes, but she also knew how to make characters. And to make characters, you have to be highly skilled. Because parents in those days used to give their daughters every bit of training, and they didn't get their daughters wedded off until they were completely skilled. And the next thing that people say is the following.
She says she was 9.
Now notice the self-contradiction in speech. I'll show you exactly where the self-contradiction is.
Okay, so the question was, they didn't have proper years or ways of counting the years. Well, first of all, they did. They could count the years, and there is a lot of documentation of years at the time. So first of all, that's not factual. And one counts how many Ramadans they've been through. I mean, or one can count how many years they've been through.
Now, I'll tell you exactly where the self-contradiction is. If I said to you that I'm a flower expert, I keep a record of which flower is which. Then somebody asked me, okay, that sounds good. What is the name of the yellow-colored flower? And I said, well, it could be or can be the sunflower. It could be or can be the sunflower. The answer is that if I'm keeping a record of which flower is which, then I would know exactly the name of the flower. If there was a proper documentation of proper count of years, the individual would have known what was being counted. Could, can, maybe, may have are signs of uncertainty. 1 year ago, I created a video called Challenging Farid Response. In that video, I asked him to present to me that documentation. In that video, I asked Farid Response that within 2 months to present me that document. It's been now a year, it's going to be 10 years, and he's not going to be able to do that. What they were counting? The first question, from when did they start counting? Let's suppose I told you that I accepted Islam in the year 2020, and I have only fasted 2 Ramadan. Does that make me into a 2-year-old? It took time for people to know how to implement religion in our life. When people accept Islam or they convert to a new religion, they don't immediately follow the principles. It takes time. There are women that start wearing the hijab a year after accepting Islam. When did people understand in Islam that they had to fast during Ramadan? When did they start implementing it on themselves? And yes, Ramadan does not come as soon as you accept Islam. If Ramadan came in April 2022, next year it's going to come in March. In a period of 10 years, there's going to be a 10-month difference. This is pretty much enough for part 1. On the next video, I'm going to be discussing the amount of weight that there is in her not being 6 or 9. This was pretty much end of part 1. Now, please wait for part 2. The link to watch part 2 will be in the description box. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. Take care and goodbye.